I'm going to give myself about that much time to say what I want to say. This is a PSA. Today, while I was working, because I work at a library, I'm afforded enough time to be able to read the newspaper. I subscribe to this magazine, or newspaper, and what I got was a weekly paper from the Epic Times, and I thought it was a monthly one, but I've been reading it every week now. And I read on the paper today, the people are allowing their transgender children to bypass puberty somehow. And they're doing it with hormonal treatments. This is a very controversial thing. And I think that needs to go unsaid. It doesn't need to go unsaid. How do people feel about this certain particular thing? Well, tensions that permeate the air at this time, the things that are affecting people. COVID-19, riots, statues that kids remember seeing when they were young coming down, but they're adults now. And now we have problems that need addressed. Well, I can only say how I would say and how I address these things. So how I say to the hormonal treatments for the kids, what I say is that there is people who are in one way enlightened to maybe a reality beyond just a male and female recognition. And there are people who are confused about these things. And we cannot forget the people who are still confused and do not know the truth. People must be comfortable with settling with being in confusion for some time before they ever will come to a resolution. But if we continue the confusion, then who do we meet that helps us with our resolution eventually? And who we meet and how they treat us is how we're going to become. And that, as well as who we are fundamentally, and how our creator of whatever sort or name has created for us, our bodies. Well, here we all are to be able to work together or continue to be confused. And I believe, not to per se say that it's the truth, but I believe that the confusion that permeates those who are confused about sexual identity, I believe these people are also people who feel that sexuality being taboo is entirely unnecessary. I believe this kind of thing, even if it's latent within them, would be enough to make anyone frustrated in their right mind. And that is the culture that we have developed and created, is our right mind. And so it takes on a masculine form. And so we have a predominantly masculine society. But people now becoming more aware of themselves are now realizing in what way masculinity can be toxic. And they're also noticing how some of them, the other ones, are also in their own way recognizing that femininity can be toxic as well. Well, the realization that would come from knowing that there are people of both kinds that are toxic is realizing that there are toxic people among us. Now, there are two different kinds. There are those who are intentionally that way and do remember their life led them to be where they are. There's also people who are not that way on purpose with no intention of that. They're toxic to their environment, but they were kind-hearted people, and they mean well. And these people go unbeknownst in their life, not knowing that by the things that they do and how they act do reflect around in the world, and how people see them and how it changes their days. And just by their behavior and what they say and what they do and who they are, because it is all that. It is what we see in that person and who we see in each other. Toxic people. It's not about a man or a woman being toxic. It's not about having another way to say either of those things. Truly, is that each of us really feels, I feel, personally, feel that everyone wants to be liberated from definition. That is acceptable. But you must take it on yourself to be that way. If you are that way, then you know that there is really nothing to say. And if you are not that way and you feel rage, you feel anger, you feel resentment, you feel those instead of a peace, which is understandable. People do feel. If they take those out to the world and they expect change to happen, personally, I will ask you, please make it happen. But what you do, make it something that you would not mind thinking back on, and it would not bother you in the future. Because there are people who want to topple statues right now. I say this can be a beautiful thing. Doing it in rage will not accomplish anything, really, because someone will use your rage against you. The dark side defeats itself. And if we use our rage to overcome these obstacles, like coming over these statues to let everyone know this is something that needs to be heard, come together on it. Come together, do it on purpose. And if the angry people want to be angry and they want to take it out, everyone watch and encourage them. Let them do what they are going to do. The actions of a few individuals can be heard by many. People going and doing this in the dark of night, toppling statues and not knowing exactly what is going to happen as a ramification. These are brave people. Their intentions matter not, because they can say their intentions and someone else could think that, what if they had a different intention? So if we come together and we witness something like this happen, even if it's just one person feels like that this needs to happen, they should be allowed to do it. Because if they personally have the strength in themselves to do it, and if they prove it, one person by themselves, and they do it, I would think that the reason they did it is so everyone would listen to what they have to say afterwards. So if we give these people the space to do this, what they're afraid of now is retaliation. Because people do not like consequences. The consequence to me going and looting a store and burning it down is if I'm on video camera, then people are going to know and look at you and say, hey, you did do this. And accountability is a very important thing. So if you decide to go and do this, you have to know that you're going in and you might be held accountable. Now, the reaction on the government's behalf to hold people accountable, I think. If people are going and doing this and accountability is required out of you by other people who are not participating in the violence and do not care for the change and it does not affect them, or they do care about it and they do not want that to happen because they care in a way. Whenever the government goes to try to hold accountability for this, there has to be people that can be talked to without fear of being arrested, persecuted, and tried. Because people can go in the masses, topple a statue. No one did it. No one did it. Because there's just a bunch of people. But if all of these people went and did this, and then there were some of the people who were there come up and they had the right to speak on behalf of the people who did this, and they listened, and they were not persecuted. That's just to say is that if I stepped on a tiger's tail, it'd turn around and bite me. But what happens if I'm walking through the woods and the tiger knows I'm not from there? He knows his place. I will come through and I step on his tail because I didn't see him, and he doesn't bite me? He just looks at me, walks away. What about that? Our government can behave in this same way. It can be the tiger. It can walk away. He got his tail stepped on, but why was it so easy that someone clumsily, accidentally could walk on a tiger's tail? The tiger got stepped on? Somehow. Something happened? Of course, something bad and wrong can happen within the government. Because bad and wrong, as subjective as they are, can happen for anybody and everybody for any reason. And people being put in front of a situation where they do not really know how to deal with it in a positive, good way that'll affect the world that way, because it is inherently negative, like war per se. If it's war dealing with, there are always evil decisions that have to be made. The dark side defeats itself, and this is the ultimate lesson that is to be learned from war. It's because by defeating ourselves in some way, the dark side does do its work. We cannot ignore that the dark side exists within us, outside of us even. And that we can't remember that it is only dark if you go far enough away from the ground. And that's it. So we got to live with the dark side. Persecution does not work. The reason it does not work is because it's not free to speak. Someone should be free to speak about their sexuality. Someone should be free to speak and say, we obviously need change and things can be better. So what can we do to make it better? It's all a matter of who's going to listen. And if the people who have the power to make change do not listen, then if they are guiding us, we are lost. So it is our responsibility as people, I personally feel as a voter, I am personally responsible for who's leading me. Who is going to be making the decisions? I think the most important quality would that be that they listen. And they know how to listen to anybody. Because there are people here who are not as capable at speaking an old tongue that we all use. There are people who are now communicating almost entirely without the language that I'm using right now. And they live their lives adequately and fully by abbreviating their whole life and communicating an entire message. It is shorter, it's fixed, and it's faster for them, but not for everybody. Language is going to change. And if language is going to change, because it did change in order to become what it is now, that means people are obviously changing. Because the words we use change the world we live in. If I call that a lizard, someone might laugh at me and call me a fool and say, no, that's a dragon. And such is life, I guess. I don't really know what else much to say. I've said quite a good bit. I'm not used to or accustomed to speaking really for this long or this freely, and this is my first time giving it a try, and this is what I would like to say to the world right now. I've done a lot of listening. I have. I do try to do my part to say what I need to say when I need to. Never, well, not never, but never is one of them funny words. But to me. But sometimes I can't even remember where I was going with a conversation. I'm going to be 23 by the end of the week. And so that's it. That's about it. I told myself I'd give myself that much time, but I don't really know if it's necessary. I read one book that I really like. I've read out of the Bible. I'll say that. But there are other books, and I really like some of them. And one book I do like is I have 2 copies of, but they're quite different. Is the I Ching. It is a very interesting book, just to say the least. And you might check it out at your local library.